All right, welcome to our Fault Lines and CTRL+F special series here at live at the Reagan National Defense Forum. My name is Jamil Jaffer. I'm NSI's founder and executive director, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Morgan Vigna, one of our NSI senior fellow. This year, we've created a special crossover between our two podcasts, Fault Lines and CTRL+F, for a special series called Modern Deterrence, Allies, Innovation, and the Future of Defense. Building on RNDF's overall theme, the series explores how the United States and its allies can restore and sustain deterrence in an era defined by technological competition, hybrid conflict, and rapid modernization across the defense landscape. In each of our coming episodes, the team will conduct on-site interviews here at RNDF in Simi Valley with defense leaders, policymakers like Congressman Don Bacon, technologists, and allied representatives. Each episode will align with the central theme while highlighting a distinct lens of the guest's expertise. On this special episode, like I said earlier, we're sitting down with Rep. Don Bacon, a retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, a 4-term congressman from Nebraska's 2nd District.
That's 5-term.
5-term, 5-term, oh man.
Say it.
All right.
Unless I had some kind of amnesia or something.
No. We'll take 5-term. 5-term congressman from Nebraska's 2nd District and one of the House's most respected bipartisan leaders on national security, defense innovation, and military quality of life issues. You're a career Air Force officer, spent nearly 30 years, specializes in electronic warfare, intelligence, advises senior commanders across the Europe and Middle East. You led operational units and expeditionary squadrons, flying combat missions over Iraq, major Air Force wings at Ramstein and Offutt. Your service included 16 assignments, 4 deployments to the Middle East, a combat tour during Operation Iraqi Freedom. You're a National War College graduate, distinguished graduate of multiple Air Force schools, and you earned 2 master's degrees during your military career. I mean,
we should just wrap up the video with all that. That sounds...
it's pretty amazing. I'll say that.
Thank you.
Your public service is grounded in the values you learned in your life growing up on a family farm in Illinois, reinforced by your lifetime of military leadership, community engagement, and bipartisan cooperation. You and your wife, Angie, who is the love of your life, I saw in your bio. I love that. Married since 1984. 3 sons, a daughter, 8 grandchildren. Amazing.
You got it.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the very kind introduction.
Yeah, really appreciate being here. Look, you have played a central role in shaping the FY26 NDA's focus on emerging tech, software reform, cyber readiness. These efforts come at a time when our adversaries are coming after us in the cyber domain. China's getting hot. They're getting aggressive. We saw them just recently take advantage of Anthropic's Claude code, in using the model control protocol. As a chair of the HASC subcommittee on cyber, IT, and innovation, where do you think we face the most urgent risk in the cyber domain, and what should we be doing that we're not doing about it?
Well, China has become the big threat. It was Russia, and maybe about 2 years ago, it is now, the intelligence community will tell you it's now China. But Russia has not gone away either. So we have a daily, intense cyber fight with China and Russia. And believe it or not, Iran and North Korea has a lot of capabilities as well. And so this is a daily fight. And on the military side, we're a little more prepared. We have better protocols. But these guys are going after our private sector, the businesses, the ag community, the hospitals, banks. And that's a lot harder to secure all this private sector stuff. Probably my top concern right now is maybe twofold. One, we've had the Cyber Command office vacant for 9 months. General Hawk, who's a friend of mine, I knew him when he was a colonel, got fired for no reason.
He's a superstar.
9 months, yeah. He is renowned. Everybody would say there was nobody that had his expertise, and there was no reason for the firing, and that anybody knows of, but it's still vacant 9 months later. And it's hard to run a cyber operation when your top position is vacant. On top of that, NSA, National Security Agency, is very important to cyber. The top 2 positions have been vacant for 9 months. Yeah. And we've cut CISA by roughly a third of its manpower.
That's DHS's cyber agency.
Yes, and that's the group that helps defend our private sector, our infrastructure.
Right.
But it's been cut. So I believe, and there's been outside assessments, that we've gone backwards this past year in defending against the cyber. And it breaks my heart because I'm the chair of the cyber subcommittee, but this is all self-wounds from the administration. Doing it to themselves, do it to us. And so part of our job is to hold people accountable and do oversight. That's what we're doing.
Well, some have suggested that Sean Carencross's appointment as National Cyber Director, being particularly close to the president and being influential to the president, might be a good sign. Mm-hmm. And there's word that he's coming out with a national cyber strategy. Have you heard anything about that? How do you feel about that?
I have not yet.
Yeah.
I've been a little leery though. I've heard all these, platitudes. Well, I don't want to mention names necessarily, but we've had a lot of people at the very top of this administration and at DHS saying we are doing everything. We've improved our cyber defenses, and this is a top priority. But just like we told the Pentagon when it comes to NATO, actions speak louder than words. And right now, all the actions we see, we're going backwards. And you can tell them that you can spin all you want. And I saw it in the previous administration too. Spin over truth. And I see it in this administration as well. And in this, I am an American before I'm a Republican every time. And so my job is to hopefully put a spotlight on it and force some change.
Well, speaking of NATO.
Yes, so...
I like her last name, Vigna.
There you go.
Is that Vigno or No, I'm just teasing.
Sir, you have been a very prominent voice on Ukraine. You've been a champion for Ukraine and this war against Russia. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about this. We saw the national security strategy released yesterday. I know you read it on the plane, as I think we all did, before coming here, because it's obviously going to be a hot topic. Be curious to know, what are your reflections on that, and particularly how Ukraine fits into that strategy and sort of the U.S. posture when it comes to pushing back on Russia?
As you read through, it's about a 35-page document.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truths in there about the need for Western Hemisphere and our strong economy.
We'll get to that later.
But when you sit it down, you get done reading it, you're like, what was this? One sentence on Russia. That bothers me. And the sentence was, we need strategic predictability or something like that, certainty with Russia. That was it. And there was multiple pages of criticisms of Europe. And it was clear that this administration wants to walk away or at least weaken our relationship with NATO. I think it's a travesty. And we've had a great partnership, or we've had a great alliance for 75 years and has kept the peace. And these same countries, even if it's not part of NATO, they've helped us all over the world because we have the NATO relationship. And so I see an administration that wants to walk away from NATO. And they have no moral clarity at all about Ukraine. And even in the NSS, they don't. They said the Europeans have maybe too high expectations for what you can do in Ukraine, which is doesn't give you a lot of confidence that the White House has a compass on this thing. So the thing that stuck out is weakening our alliance. It's more America alone. And I'm a history guy. I love reading. I read history books for fun all the time. This is like a 1930s foreign policy, what we're seeing. I mean, it was the Reagan, or I should say the Republican foreign policy from post-Civil War to World War II. And it's more isolationist, Western Hemisphere, Monroe Doctrine oriented. So we got our 1800s back and our 1930s back somehow.
Some would say that's what led us to World War II, our failure to engage and effectively be part of a structure that would have limited that from happening. But let's talk about some of the practicalities of Ukraine. So as we look at the Ukraine war, people say it demonstrates a revolution in military affairs at some level. The use of drones, the use of autonomous systems, the use of distributed command and control, counter EW, the whole thing. How do you think we're doing on that front? Are we, we see a lot of the big companies here today, Anduril, a lot of the drone manufacturers here. We see Saronic, with the U.S. on the ocean. Talk to us about whether we're learning the right lessons, and is NATO learning the right lessons?
There's no doubt we lead the world in the exquisite side of the house. The F-35, I think, is the best fighter in the world, bar none. It'll be that way for a decade to come.
Although China's got these new Gen 6 fighters that are a little concerning.
I think, again, I think it's probably a lot of looks over capability, but we'll see. The F-22s, we do a lot of great, complicated things, second to none. But you're right, this low-cost mass drones that you can put hundreds of drones on a target is something that we are not prepared for. We don't have the defenses for it, which we need to be doing. I've authored legislation, got it through the NDAA to improve our defenses against this. And I would say, though, if you don't have air superiority, and Ukraine nor Russia do, these drones are very effective.
Yeah.
If either one had solid air superiority, you wouldn't have to rely on drones as much. So I would...
Or if we'd established a no-fly zone of Ukraine, which we talked about early on but never did.
I do think if we had, in any fight we're in, if we have air superiority, drones will have a lower input. But if you can't get air superiority, drones are... So I think you need both. You got to have a force with both of these in your toolbox. And what I'm excited about, I hope make this happen. I'm proud of this work. We hope send weapons to Ukraine for their F-16s that will allow them to shoot down drones at a lower cost than the drone. For a while there, we were shooting down drones at a much higher cost than the drone. And that's a way to go bankrupt. And so we are now providing stuff to Ukraine that is much less expensive than the drones themselves, and they're very effective. So that's what we got to be working on.
Cool.
Sir, we're here at the Reagan National Defense Forum, and we've got some of the most premier American non-traditional startups. We've got the primes here. As we think about American innovations, specifically you mentioned drones, UAVs. Talk to me a little bit more about American manufacturing and production, and how the U.S. government can partner, or should be partnering, but isn't, with American technologists and innovators, because I think right now we see this huge window of opportunity where this administration wants to put forward that political capital, but I'd be curious to get your assessment on how that's going, and frankly, is there a role for Congress to play to facilitate that?
Well, the real role, we have to keep spending at 4% GDP, which we did with this year with this $150 billion plus up, or it's close to it. We got to sustain that. So I heard criticisms of the industry last night saying, hey, you're not ramping up production. Well, they're not until you pay them. You got to pay a company to go double shifts and produce. If you want to buy double the 155 millimeter shells, you got to pay for it. And they will get the second line going. So it's really a financial commitment from Pentagon and Congress that will fix this. But I also think there's a role for our allies. Like, for example, the Czech Republic are notoriously outstanding at making artillery stuff. We had a contract with them, and they can help produce much of the free world's artillery stuff, right? And Germany, they have great they're craftsmen. So we should disperse a little bit this mass production that we need, but we got to pay for it. And they're not going to do it just to do it. The government's got to pay for it. And what happened was we had this prior to 1990, but obviously the Berlin Wall fell, communism fell. We cut our military literally by about 2/3, right?
Peace dividend.
And those budgets went extraordinarily down. Ronald Reagan had a 6% GDP budget. That's how you afford a lot of ammo.
Yeah. I mean, if we do go back and we don't double down on this $150 billion commitment that the administration did make this year, we're going to be short of inflation alone, right? I mean, this is not. We're actually losing capacity at a time when China's pushing forward. How do we? Besides a monetary commitment, is there something to this whole defense modernization question and this idea of buying from more innovative companies and smaller and the like? Is that the right play? And if it is the right play, is the Pentagon going to actually be able to get there? We do see something of a verbal commitment from the Secretary, from the President. We hear a lot of talk about it.
Right.
Is it actually going to happen, or will the bureaucracy win?
So, one of the things I've seen in D.C. a lot, you either got to love a person 100% or dislike a person 100%. And I have been very critical of Secretary Hegseth, but I do think his ideas on acquisition are needed. Yeah. And that would be something I would praise him on publicly, that we need to reform. It should not take a decade to produce the F-35. I mean, that's just...
Even if it's exquisite.
Yes, it's no way. So the NGAD, or the F-47, should be a lot faster, I think. But we do need to use more startups, and we need to be buying more off the shelf. So, for example, the F-35, one of the things we're behind on is intelligence mission data. It's sort of when you fly over a tank and the airplane sees, like, I see a tank, the IR sensors and all the other sensors should be able to look at that and say, that's a T-72.
Yeah.
But it takes thousands of pictures.
The Russian main battle tank.
Yes, but it takes thousands of pictures, so you got to look for different angles, and the computer says, yep, that is a T-72. We're way behind that. But yet Silicon Valley has that capability
today.
Already.
Yeah.
So we should have, look, Lockheed Martin, I love them. They're building a great hardware. But we probably should have subcontracted to some people that know what they're doing, so you can infuse that data into the plane. We need to have more of that mindset.
Sir, the NDAA is coming out.
I need an update. I'm trying to get an update
Monday,
real fast.
God willing.
It was put out last night.
Oh, it was put out last night.
But I don't have. I heard I have a lot of good stuff in there, but I have no proof yet.
Oh man, yeah, we do. Because I was about to ask you, well, what were the key wins for you in the NDAA this year?
Well, I'll know more. The one thing I'm really working on, it's huge for the district. I got stuff that's great for the country, strategic, but one thing I'm very excited about, we want to make Omaha the epicenter for anything pandemic research and response. We have this great facility called the UNMC, or University of Nebraska Medical Center. It is the world's leader on Ebola, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. They are great at contagious diseases, and we're trying to we want them to partner with DoD to be the lead for any kind of pandemic responses in the future. I think I got that in the bill, which would be huge for our hospital, but also for Omaha area. We're talking maybe 1,000 scientists being added to the community. So there's a lot of excitement to that. But beyond that, what I'm very interested in is making sure we have money for our new ICBMs, a new B-21 bomber, and the new subs. And to do all those three at once is hard. And so and I think we're going down the right path there. My last thing I want to do this year, besides work on a VA in Omaha, I don't think our strategic nuclear command and control is survivable. In other words, we can be hit in 15 minutes. The White House, the Pentagon, Stratcom. And we used to have all these backups prior to 1991, but because of the Cold War, we did away with them. I'm telling the Pentagon, I even told President Trump this, which didn't translate well. I somehow did not do a good job communicating, but we need to have backup nuclear command and control. Because, not that you ever want to use it, but you want Russia and China to know no matter what, if you decapitate us at the White House, we have the ability to fire 400 ICBMs. I think we are in a very fragile spot. And I've gone to the 4-star generals, and I used to be this guy. I used to have the code, so I've got a little bit of background on it. And it costs money. I said, I don't want to do it. I said, it's just worth every penny for Russia and China to know that no matter what you do, surprise attack, we can always respond. But we did away with this capability in 91. And we actually degraded even further in 97. And I think these threats are back.
Right.
Russia's a threat. China's building a nuclear force to match ours, hypersonics, stuff right off our coast that you have no detection time. We're talking space in the future with no warning.
Yeah.
We got to be doing better here. So this is probably something I'm going to be. This is what I got to work on in the next NDA to get in. So it's my John the Baptist message.
Yep. We
the wilderness.
We just had H.R. McMaster on the pod, and he said that history may not necessarily repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. So I think that's some interesting historical reflection.
And this isn't
there.
hard to figure out. We've done it.
Yep.
We just got to have the willpower to do it.
No, absolutely. Follow-up question for you. What are the chances on a Reconciliation 2.0 next year?
We are talking about it. And so part of we're talking to Director Vought. He's thinking the only way to get this money continuing for the military is another reconciliation bill. I hope not. I would like to think we can do this through regular order. Every time we do, especially in reconciliation, it's a party line vote, and it creates hostility for years. I know it. I've been on the receiving end. I've been on the other side. I've seen it both ways. And we still haven't got over Obamacare, ACA, from 2011, which was done on a party line vote, not a single Republican vote. And we're still paying for it. And so I'd like to see us do this mainly with regular order. The one thing he's got a good point on, the Democrats typically say, yeah, we'll spend more on defense if you spend more on non-defense. Well, we can't afford all that because we're $38 trillion in debt or nearing there. So he thinks maybe a reconciliation bill is necessary. It's necessary to get the defense part of it, not the other part. But I hope not. I hope it's not needed.
Yeah, well, Congressman, you're a true Reagan Republican. I mean, that's a rarity nowadays. And you really believe in peace through strength. Talk to us about offensive cyber. I want to return to cyber. We're talking a lot more about it. We hear the administration talk about it. We know that General Nakasone leaned forward on the idea of active defense and defend forward and the like. General Hawk obviously would have carried that message forward. I don't doubt that. We don't know who the next leader of Cyber Command and NSA is going to be. Hopefully, well, I'd be interested in your thoughts on the dual hat. I'm a fan, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. But also, how should we be thinking about the offensive cyber tool, right? Can we achieve deterrence in cyberspace? I happen to be somebody who thinks we can. There's a lot of people who are skeptical of that. What do you think?
Well, we have the best offensive cyber in the world, but we're very limited how we want to use it because we don't want to give away our capabilities. And there's a debate, so I think we should be more aggressive. Russia and China are doing offensive cyber on us all the time. Why aren't we doing it back to let them know, hey, two could play this game? But the pushback, I've had these conversations, is if you do this, if you want to be known, because you're trying to let them know, hey, we're getting you back, but then you're giving away that capability.
So we do that all the time in the regular military domain. We have air shows. We demonstrate our capacity. We don't show everything, but we show some of it to demonstrate.
Well, I'm giving you that's the pushback I get from cyber, that we want to protect but we are very good at it, and they want to protect how good we are. So that's the thing. But I do think we should be a proactive. I'm with you. I'm the guy pushing. Hey, China and Russia shouldn't be able to get into our energy grid without us saying we're going to do the same.
Yeah,
that's my point. But they're also their rules of war on this are more restrictive than I think are needed. Yeah. If these guys are in my energy grid, I think we should be in their energy grid.
100%.
So
if they're holding us at risk, we should hold them at risk.
Right.
But I think what's interesting is I think part of this goes back to the fact that a lot of this stuff grew up originally on the classified side. It was a collection methodology for NSA, and you've got this intelligence gain loss question, right? If I go use the access to blow it up, that's why I think it's important that Cyber Command build up its own capacity. But to me, the dual hat allows that to happen. But there are those who say if you break the dual hat, then Cyber Command can grow up, build its own capacity, and they don't have to check with NSA. What do you think about that?
You're going to have an NSA capability to do cyber. I think 2/3 of cyber is NSA, right? You got to be in somebody's networks, finding the threats, finding how to penetrate in. That's all NSA. Yeah. And then cyber is one who maybe does the attack or the defense side of this. But you got to have a cohesive team. You need unified direction. And I think so it means you got to have a dual hat. Now, let's just say hypothetically you provided an NSA capability in Cyber Command. You're still now you're doing cyber attacks against something maybe NSA is actually collecting on.
Right.
You still got to have. So in other words, I think you're always going to have this. And there's a few people that for some reason are stuck trying to break this apart. Yeah. And anybody that's been well involved in this disagrees. Yeah. With
totally with you.
And there's also a push for a cyber force. That's a separate issue. I think there maybe be a little more argument for that than breaking up the dual hat. But I think dual hat makes cyber more effective.
I agree.
Why degrade yourself?
Totally.
Sir, you've been very generous with your time, and I kind of want to end the conversation on, maybe a positive note here. We see in today's age, so much division and polarization within politics, and I'd be curious to know, where do you see the opportunities for bipartisanship? I mean, you yourself have been, just a real champion for working across the aisle and finding areas of common ground with your colleagues. What are you most proud of, in your career, and where do you see the bright spots moving forward?
A little anecdote. In 2017, I said the oath on January 3rd. For about a year, the House passed more legislation like in history. But then we got to thinking about, nothing's got out of the Senate. So what good do we do? And I used to teach the Federalist Papers at University of Bellevue, and I've read them. I studied them in college myself. Yeah. And the whole thing for Madison and Hamilton, and there's 3 from John Jay, but it was about the Constitution was written to force consensus and to prevent the minority factions. They didn't say parties. To protect the minority factions, so it forced consensus. And I'm like, well, duh. This is what's going on. We're getting all this stuff out of the House. We're not getting anything out of the Senate. So that's when I became a member of Problem Solvers. And then we stood up a group called the Four Country Caucus, which are all veterans, half Republican, half Democrat.
We have so many less veterans in Congress than we've ever had before.
Yeah, 19%. Yeah. We're 1% higher than the lowest, which was like 2 years ago. So 18, and so we're sitting around 19. So it's historically very low. But if you want to get something done, you got to work across the aisle. And that's so I'm proud of this. The Common Ground Committee, which looks at the Lugar Index and a whole bunch of other indexes, has rated me number 1 many years in a row. So I was rated the most bipartisan member of Congress multiple times. And Also, at last Congress, I had more bills passed than anybody else in Congress. So bipartisanship allows for effectiveness. And then there's the CEL, or I can't remember what's, it's another group that rates effectiveness. Even though I have more bills passed than anybody, they rated me the second most effective guy in Congress, which I said, well, I got passed more bills than that guy, so what's wrong
What's
here?
the deal, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll take number 2. But that was in the 118th. And 117th, I was rated number 1 in the same roster. So, in other words, I think we've been delivering results, getting things done, and it is because if you want to get something passed, you got to have some Democrat support, and that's how you get 60 votes in the Senate.
Yeah. Well, Congressman, really appreciate you being
you.
on with us.
Thanks.
All right, folks, that's a wrap. Thanks to Representative Don Bacon for being here with us today, and thanks to Kelly Crowley and Long Claude Jennings, the entire NSI staff for the podcast episode today. Fault Lines and our Control-F podcasts are on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, you name it. We're also on YouTube, so check us out there so you can see Congressman Bacon's
There's going to be some Venia tonight at
There's
the
going to be
bar.
some Venia tonight, exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. Really appreciate it, sir.